Good morning or good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. I just had an email from Mervyn, who's sent me this excerpt from Judith Moritz's book. It does have some interesting stuff in it about these extra cases that Evans has thrown up to the police that they've done nothing with or can't do anything with, and trying to tie that into what was said to Dr. Phil Hammond, or what Dr. Phil Hammond said Evans said to him, and then what Rachel Aviv said Evans said to him, and trying to figure out, putting all these bits together, because I've had this idea that there were two lots of 25 cases that he'd raised to them that they've done nothing with. It's probably more likely to be one lot, but it's because you're trying to piece together different sources of reporting. Just to kind of refresh it, Rachel Aviv says that after the first arrest, he chooses another 25 cases. Now, I've just been trying to find, it's there somewhere, not in the article, but trying to find the either the judgment or the Court of Appeal statement after the main trial, the rejection of the for leave to appeal, where it says Evans was sent the initial batch. I think they've got 33 in there, but in either 32 or 33. I just can't find it at the moment for some reason. I'm looking on the search thing and it's not coming up. But there's a section in one of those judgments where it says Evans made a lot of reports, etc. And he had 33 cases. Then he was sent a second batch of 28. And that's where I got the 25 from 28. So it's like bloody bingo. It's just mad. All these numbers flying around. It's just crazy. And I don't know what they refer to. But now looking at this section that Mervyn has sent me from Judith Moritz's book, it looks like there's these two numbers of 18 and 7. And what do they make up? Is 25. And that fits in with what Rachel Aviv said he told her, also fits in with what Dr. Phil Hammond reported, saying that Evans told him that in 2023 it's about there's no strong timeline of exactly, we haven't got the timeline of all the reports, how many cases, when they refer to, which were investigated, which were not. Apparently this is what he said here. This is from the Moritz book, Moritz and the other guy, that I, as in Evans, I reviewed another 48 cases, and a lot of these came from concerns from a mixture of families, staff, or following my review of reports prepared by my fellow paediatrician, Dr. Sandy Bowen. So this is the 48 cases on top. He did it in 2 weeks, apparently. And he noticed 18 cases that, in his opinion, require more careful scrutiny. So that's your 18 there. And he's got another 7. He's got another 7 that he's worried about. He's gone over some of the cases again that he was initially sent by the police, and has concluded that a further 7 of these are concerning. And that's your 25 that I think Evans was talking to, possibly both Rachel Aviv and Dr. Phil Hammond about. But the way Rachel Aviv reports it is that Evans says he's chosen this 25. And I always looked at that Court of Appeal judgment, or the main judgment, where it said he was sent a second batch of 28, and obviously I'm assuming the 25 was from that 28. But he's reviewed a further 48 cases in total, so it gives a grand total of something of the order of 80 cases, so-called cases. 80. I mean, it says in the beginning of this Moritz excerpt that Mervyn has sent me, that it's insanity, all this, isn't it, what he's done, Evans? But it's the police. I was going to say something in a minute. Cause in the Moritz book, it says initially examined around 30 cases. Why all this time down the line, is it being reported that not a specific number? Why is she saying, why is it only around? And again, a case, is it a case as separate? A lot of medical notes applying to one child. It's not an incident, is it? It's not an incident of which there could be several for one individual child. It's individual. A case is a set of notes for an individual child, isn't it? Why it's saying around 30, but we'd always understood it was 32. There's this fluctuating number there's always been this fluctuating number, but I think it's settled on, see, I'm trying to find it in the Court of Appeal document, but there's this very simple section which it said Evans did this, received a batch of, I think it's 32 or 33 they stick with in the official document, and then he gets a second batch of 28, which is probably what this 18 and this 7 added together, 25, comes from. Why is this important? Well, the reason I kept on highlighting all the way through is that what is it saying about Evans? That you can raise all these other issues and they get discounted or they can't do anything with them. Possibly because Lucy Letby's either not on duty but then the police are seemingly making that independent decision about them, even though they say they've got no medical experience to do so. And they've been relying on him to tell them what the case is all the time, and suddenly they can do it unilaterally and just say, well, we can't do anything with this. And then Mervyn also mentions the unheard article from February the 1st, which I had read, which is the one where you've got this detective sergeant, somehow they've got the original notes going back to 2017, and you've got all the disparities regarding several of the babies that end up on the indictment list of babies that end up as murders or attempted murder charges and convictions, and the disparities between Evans's original findings. I'll link that article again below, because as Mervyn says in his email to me, and I read the article at the time, and it was big at the time, but then the Shuley conference and everything did kind of maybe overshadow it a bit, but it's huge, really. From very early on, I had this idea that Evans was being absolutely fed. They were all on one page, both the consultants and him. And I think I'm not thinking that there isn't an element of that going on, but in terms of him choosing all these cases and all these so-called incidents that then the police drop because they can't make them work because Lucy Letby's not on duty, and he's saying, oh, this is, you have to read the article. I won't go through every part of it. Read the unheard article again, the one from February the 1st by David Rose. Just one of the main headlines of that is that Evans chooses 10 incidents that can't be used, really, that for which Lucy Letby's not on duty. 10 out of 28 incidents in his initial report. So over a third of the things he's highlighting, they can't do anything with, it's what it is about, really, is it not? It's the police. It's the police. The cynicism of the police is to say, well, we'll just use what we can use from him, and everything we can't use, we'll either pretend as though he didn't say it, or we won't infer anything from the fact that he's telling us about all these other things that we can never use. We won't infer the obvious. What is the obvious that you'd infer? Is that it can't just be, it's either got to be multiple assailants or multiple criminals at work here, or he's not reliable in terms of what he's telling you at all. It's got to be that, isn't it? So the police know that. They're doing it with full consciousness. The absolute cynicism of their fake investigation is just to drop, not hear, push aside everything that doesn't work for them getting the person they've got in the frame. And that's disgusting. I mean, Evans is a nutter, but they must know he's a nutter. Evans is utterly unreliable and just seeing deliberate harm everywhere, almost. Probably, eventually, in more incidents than they end up finding, or police finding, and CPS as well, finding a way to get on the indictment. He's failed to get it right for them, for their case, in probably more times, and he has got it right for them that fits in with their program to persecute a person and get somebody for these things that didn't happen. Sorry, I know it's probably said all this stuff before, but it just revivifies it, and just reading over the Unheard article again, very specific incidents related to several of the babies that from the original detective notes. Evans has said, well, this happened earlier, and then Lucy Letby's not on duty, so they just have to forget that. It's the police. It's the police. It's the police are absolutely responsible for giving Evans his head and just using him to make things fit when it fits for the police and for the case. There's nothing governing that. All that money that they poured into it, there's no one in that Hummingbird operation say, hold on a minute, Gov, or this Hughes character himself go, hold on a minute. This guy's told us about, 10 cases that we can't use here. X number, he sent us another 25. They're not being explicit exactly why those 25. Evans says he never heard anything back from them. The police won't talk to David Rose about why they're not following any of those up. Won't talk to anybody else. Because what it would reveal is that they've gone along with just a complete nutter and just used what they can from him to build a case on nothing, on this nutter, and just dropped all the stuff that they couldn't use purely because Lucy Letby's not on duty for it. And the ones that they can use, they've dropped incidents that he raised early on, saying that the collapse began earlier on, or contrary information saying that the baby was unstable, and to the police of kind of massive cherry-picking operation from the police itself to see which of the so-called suspicious cases that Evans raises that they cherry-pick. Everything's a series of cherry-picking. Everything, from the consultants onto Evans, and then onto the police. Everything is, and then the CPS as well. It's utterly disgusting. The police, if there should be criminal charges against them for doing what they've done here, because they've done it with full knowledge. They can't not know it. They can't not know it because they've had his reports, and they're going through them. They go, well, no, we can't use that one. We can't use that one. We can't use that one. She's not on duty. Can't use that one. So, but they're not thinking, well, who's done that suspicious event then? Well, they don't care. Because it's not a suspicious event, it's because of the unit's falling apart and the medical care is not up to scratch, and the babies are very unstable, etc. All the reasons we've gone over so many times. What the police are literally getting all these reports from him and saying, well, we're just going to put that one to the side. No, can't use that one. Not making the obvious link that then they can't rely on him at all, and shouldn't be at all, or Bowen, obviously. Isn't that obvious, though? Isn't it obvious? Wouldn't it be obvious you don't have to be a detective to work that out? What's an analogy for that? Let's just say it was, I don't know, this might not be the right analogy. No, I can't think of one. I was going to say somebody accusing. No, I just can't think of one. Well, it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening. Cheshire Police, yeah. Vile. This part of them anyway. This Hummingbird thing, but the CPS as well. Did the CPS, when the I don't know how it works with the police, how they prepare the case that CPS have to say, well, yeah, we're going to go through with it, don't they? Did the CPS have knowledge that Evans has chosen all these so-called incidents that can't be acted upon because Lucy Letby's not on duty? Did they have that? Did they have direct knowledge of that as well? This is outright corruption, isn't it? Corruption. This is perverting the court of justice, isn't it? Whatever it is, it's evil, whatever phrase you want to add to it, whatever formal phrase it is, it's just absolutely evil. I'll put the Unheard link again below in case some people missed it. And in the description, I'll copy and paste the excerpt from the Moritz book that Mervyn sent me as well. What's gonna come of this? Nothing's gonna come of it. I don't think they're not. No one's holding the police's feet to the fire because they just say, oh well, it's ongoing investigations, and we've got to think of the parents, and we mustn't impede justice. It's just stonewalling, and they're not being made to explain why they can have. Well, what would it be? Well, at least 25. I was going with 2 lots of 25 because of the reports of variously of Dr. Phil Hammond and Rachel Aviv, because they're reporting what Evans told them both. But I'm thinking more now it's just one set of 25. So the police can't tell us, oh no, we discounted those for medical reasons, because Evans is saying to Moritz and other people, he's saying, well, they just haven't, and to Dr. Phil Hammond, Evans is saying, well, they didn't get back to me. The police never got back to me about those and didn't explain to me why they're not, and I followed it up with another letter and I never heard anything. So do we infer from that the police have got another secret medical person advising them not to go through with those? No. They're just not either not bothering, or because they know full well that they can't do anything with them. And it clashes with what they were doing, which is to stitch up a person and not to look at anything exculpatory. And having an so-called expert, your main expert witness, telling you things that move away from the person that you're going after is exculpatory, isn't it? Why would you not see that as exculpatory? Having him talk about particular children that end up on the indictment, for which Evans is saying, oh, well, this incident began at an earlier time, and then you find out that Lucy Letby is not on duty for that. That's exculpatory for the whole. I'm going to sneeze. That's exculpatory for the whole charge related to that child, then, isn't it? Because it's not firm in any way at all, is it, in terms of what you're basing it on? Because the police aren't basing it on anything from their own knowledge. It's all through Evans. And he's tainted to such a ridiculous degree in terms of his obvious inaccuracy. So there couldn't have been absolute collusion between Evans and the consultants and the police at the time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got it, quote unquote, wrong so many times. He wouldn't have got it obviously wrong, if you see what I mean, that it would have fitted perfectly, wouldn't he? And it would have been teed up, and he wouldn't have made any statements about any suspicious act when she was not on duty. But he's done that so many times, 10 times at least, and then probably more times in terms of individual incidents related to babies that come onto the indictment, and X number of times in this set of 25 suspicious incidents. Some being very suspicious, he says. Anyway, I'll link that Unheard article again below in case people want to reread it or read it for the first time. This is going back to February the 1st. And thanks very much, Mervyn, for sending that excerpt from the Moritz book. And as you said, well, no, that is an interesting section there, and it clarifies a little. Well, does it clarify it? No, it just it just adds another bunch of numbers, and we don't have a clear timeline of every report he made, when he made it, what sets of notes it was based on. We don't have that, do we? We don't have absolute clarity on that. You'd have to get that from Evans or the police, and neither of them are going to give us that. What else does it say in this email that Mervyn sent me regarding this section? Well, I'll put it below, I'll copy it below, but he's heard nothing back. Yeah, Evans has heard nothing back from them. But then the Moritz book says Cheshire Police told them that they're following new leads in the case. And insiders call it Operation Hummingbird Phase 2. Oh, God. What a bunch of bastards these particular officers are. I'm not talking about every officer. I'm talking about in this unit, in this section, that they're just vile. They're just, I mean, Evans is obviously clearly some kind of psychopathic nutter, but they used him. They were happy to use him to build their case, and anything that he threw at them that they just can't use, that moves away from Lucy Letby, and clearly it does, they just kind of park that and like no one, just omerta about it. They're not going to say anything about it to anyone. They feel they don't have to explain it to anyone, but they should explain it, shouldn't they? Will they ever be made to explain it, Cheshire Police? Well, it was screaming at them that they had a so-called expert that they're basing their whole case on, that should never have been relied on to fucking go to the shop and buy a packet of biscuits, let alone give them the reports about crime, attempted murders and murders. They shouldn't have relied. Ridiculous. They should have seen through him, and then that judge did right. That other judge, Jackson, is it? Well, it did right to, is it Jackson anyway, that other judge that wrote to Goss? Don't go near this guy, don't use it, he's worthless. His information is worthless, or his prior evidence was. And they went with it, and Goss went with it, and then the Court of Appeal, they all went with it, because they've hitched, like the whole system's hitched themselves to Evans, and they know what he is now, and they've always known, actually, and they don't care. They just don't give a shit. None of them do. Court of Appeal don't. Goss didn't. Police didn't. CPS didn't. Nobody does, except for the people that obviously are now fighting back against it. And it's been revealed what Evans is. But only partially. Only partially, because I'm saying that you would do it, but if you were going to forensically look into how crazy this guy is, or evil stroke crazy or psychopathic Evans is, you would look into all these further 25 that he sent to the police, and then you would look for, as Shuley kept saying in that conference, now let's look at the evidence to see what really happened, and you'd find it in every one of those as well. Because what Evans hasn't done in those other ones that he's submitted, or the 10 incidents of the 28 of the initial report that the police couldn't use, as it were, cynically just couldn't use, so they forgot he told them about them, in the sense that it should be confounding their investigation into one person, shouldn't it? It should be oppositional to that. It should be telling them that this guy is a nutter. We've got to start again with somebody else. We can't rely on this person. But no, they didn't give a shit. The police didn't give a shit about it. Jesus wept. I don't know. The police, anyway, what was I going to say? If you could find your way to, we'll never know what they were. We'll never know what those other 25 cases were. They've come out the tortured mind of this nutter Evans, gone into the police, and they'll go, well, no, we don't need to follow these up, or we can't follow these up, or we just won't follow these up for X reasons. But in the meantime, they'll just say, oh, we're still investigating, and that can go on and never reach an end, never would reach an end in relation to what those things that he's brought up. But thanks, Mervyn, that's really helpful. because it's just been bothering me. But I still don't understand why in the Rachel Aviv article it says Evans chose another 25 cases after the first arrest. And that, in my mind, always put it between 2018 and 2019, as it would do, wouldn't it? Because after the first arrest is implicitly before the second arrest. And then you've got Dr. Phil Hammond on Twitter saying, which marries in what Dr. Phil Hammond marries in with what not Rachel, all these names, marries in with what Judith Moritz's book and the other guy's book, which is about this letter that Evans writes in 2023. Yeah. A month after Lucy Letby's conviction, August 2023, Evans wrote to Cheshire Police to remind them of the additional cases that he had highlighted back in 2021, which is, well, I didn't say the month in 2021 here in this Moritz excerpt, but presumably after the charge is made, the final arrest and charge, 2021. So maybe it's just a mixture of inaccuracies or vague statements from Evans to Rachel Aviv saying it was after the first arrest. But there's a big difference between after the first arrest and 2021, isn't there? Wouldn't you say after the charge? Wouldn't you say after the third arrest? Wouldn't you say that? Or wouldn't you just say in 2021? So I'm thinking, this is a bit retrospective now because I did a bunch of videos about, are there two sets of 25? But I think it is likely to be there's just this one set of 25. So you get, 33, 32, 30. What does Moritz say here? Around 30 cases. I'm just looking for that. I'll find it eventually. That either Court of Appeal or the final judgment document where it says it's a very simple section of it where it said Evans received a batch of 30. I think it's 33. I'll go with that. I'm pretty sure it was 33 cases. And then he received a second batch of 28. I always thought the 25 cases that Rachel Aviv was mentioning Evans told her about was chosen from that 28. Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you put those two together? Because that's the only two lots of cases mentioned. Although we hear here, in total, Evans reviewed a total of 48 cases on top of the around 30 that Moritz says. So we're looking at about 80 odd cases altogether, possibly 81. If it's 33 and 48, that's 81 cases in total, from which, now I'm going back to the Evans early interviews in which he said he chose 15 cases from, and in the early interviews he used to variably say 32 or 30, around 30. And does this matter, all these numbers? Oh God, it does matter. Evans used to say, I chose 15 cases from it. So there was this idea that more often than not, you would say from 32. So he didn't, 17, he found reasons for collapses and reasons for deaths that we thought were natural and not that were explicable, other than through deliberate harm in his view. 17 he discounted. So he chooses 15 cases, not incidents, because this is where it comes up in the this thing about incidents versus cases. In the Unheard article, in his initial report, he chooses 28 incidents, not cases, incidents, of which 10, and as David Rose remarks, that being over a third of them are just not going to hit the target because Lucy Letby's not on duty for them at all. Police fully aware of that, and it doesn't click, the light bulb doesn't go on to say, well, we can't rely on this person then. What is that saying about the suspicious cases that he's deeming where she is on duty? Wouldn't that be the obvious wake-up call at that point back in 2017? Wouldn't you be, Jesus Christ, we've either got a team, a team of murderers here, or this person is unreliable. Or if not a team, there's got to be more than one. How can we in all good faith, Operation Hummingbird, how can we in all good faith carry on with this investigation, looking into one person when our experts telling us about all these other incidents, and they are essentially exculpatory in that sense, or they are suggestive of multiple offenders. But one way or another, it's not adding up. And they don't give a flying fuck about it, the police, do they? Not to this day. And will they ever be held to account for it? And there's so much else corruption, I think, has gone on there, So much stuff. I hope people start talking. This video has gone on longer than I thought. I had a comment the other day from about 7 months ago. I'm trying to catch up with all the comments. And somebody said, stop sniffing, comb your hair, get a script before you do your... I find it quite amusing because there's a litany of things that I should do in my videos. Well, it's just not what, and it's probably a good point. I should try to do them better, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'd ever have made a lot of the videos if I felt I have to script them all out. I like it when people do that, but I like also like a free flow of moment to moment thinking things through. It's like a conversation. It's just different approaches, isn't it? I don't mind that. People want everything sort of like very, very neat and concise. It's just not what I'm doing. But nobody has to watch any of these videos. Nobody has to watch anything. But I don't mean that in a horrible way. I just mean they just don't, do they? Nobody has to. If it's not their cup of tea or it's not their kind of approach, I admire all kinds of approaches. People who do it with obviously in a very concise and a scripted way, and they get it very, very. They know exactly what they're going to say, and it's great. And I love all that as well. And I love the sort of other love. Maybe is not the right word, but I admire because the subject matter. I admire that people also think it sort of thinking on the hoof as well, because this is. When you look at it right from the beginning, a lot of people have kind of had intuitions about this all the way along, and then it's coming out. It's coming out in reports with factual elements, like from the unheard. I'm always wondering though. I mean, how did David Rose get hold of these early police reports? Is that in the public domain? Can we get hold of them? This is Detective Moore. I looked her up, and she was like the what was she? Janet Moore, police officer, Detective Sergeant Janet Moore, Cheshire Police, and she was the family liaison coordinator. And there's a joint family statement here. There's a link. If you put in her name in Google, it comes up with Chester's D radio, like the Chester radio thing, and she does this, reads out a statement, Janet Moore does. And then in the unheard article, she's being referred to, and the initial notes that David Rose's article. See, this is what people complain about. I do make mistakes in speaking. Nobody's perfect, but look, David Rose's article talking about this Sergeant Moore, and how did you get hold of that, and where is that? Is that in the public domain? Is this a police whistleblower? Has she got in trouble for revealing these notes? I don't know. Maybe that's just a side issue. I'll leave it there. God, what a mess, what a disgusting mess the police have created as well, and the CPS, by knowingly, every stage of the way, knowing the quality of what Evans must be like. They explicitly know it, don't they? Because what's the thought pattern from the police and the CPS, or let's say initially the police, is that Are they thinking, oh God, what this guy is sending us now isn't particularly helpful, so we'll just ignore it? What excuse would they give? What excuse would they give if you said to look, he told you about 10 incidents from the 15 cases that he chose. So he chose 28 incidents from 15 cases from the first batch of 32, or around 30, as Moritz says, or 33, as that formal court document says. What would the police say when you said, well, what about these ones when what did you think about that? What did you think about that? Oh, we just can't use it. It's not helpful for the investigation. Yeah, but what did you think about that, about him? Oh, okay, it's obscene, utterly obscene. I'll leave it there. Sorry, it's been a bit of a ramble, but anyway, it is what it is, but it's just hideous. Thank you, Mervyn, and very much for the excerpt. I'll put the relevant excerpt that Mervyn sent me from Moritz's book. Not plugging her book, but as Mervyn says, there's some bits in there that are useful. Bits that are useful. I mean, I haven't read the book. I'm not going to read it, but I'm really grateful for Mervyn for pulling out that section to Mervyn. And the Unheard article as well. Cheers. Have a great day and a good weekend, actually. Take it easy. Bye-bye. And thanks for everyone who came onto the screen, as it were, last night in the live. Everybody did that. Everybody in the comments section at the time, and everyone who listened at the time, whether they commented or not, and everyone who may listen afterwards. We had a bit of a live on there. It went across some different subjects, so I didn't put like Nurse Lucy Letby in the title, but it did include quite a bit of discussion about that, as it inevitably would, but not exclusively. I was talking about films at one point, but in a sense we're human. And that was another comment that I had, and I'm absolutely pleased to get comments that put points of view across about different things, and saying that is it, a note of caution to me. It was the idea that, and I appreciate the comment, is it good, because I've been doing so, or anyone that's doing videos about this injustice as we see it, well, it obviously is an injustice against Nurse Lucy Letby. Should you be doing talking about other contentious issues, which leaves us open to being criticised as conspiracy theorists by the naysayers, the guilters, as some people call them, or the trolls? Well, it's an interesting point. I'm giving it some thought, because I did a video about another subject the other day, which is contentious. But the trolls, I think I answered the comments, and I was very pleased to get the comments and listen to people's points of view. But the trolls will go after you for any reason, absolutely any reason, and they'll just try to, attack you for any reason at all. And I think the people that are kind of contending with us, or whether they're trolls or whatever they are, they want to call us like conspiracy theorists anyway. They're already there with that. It's not gonna, adding something else in, like if I started talking about the moon landings or something, is that gonna make them worse? Probably not, is it? They're there already. They see us in a certain light already, I think, and that was my thought about it. But it's something that it does give me pause for thought, really. But I'm not sure. I remember Operation Merlin Falcon saying that when he used to mix it up with some videos doing things on the grill, like doing some bacon or pork or whatever it was, that some people had said to him that because he was talking about this case, they didn't, I hope I've got this right, Merlin, they didn't like him mixing up cooking videos with, and he's not doing it in at the same time. He's not talking about Lucy Letby while cooking, as far as I'm aware. And even if he was, so what? People can mix things up. But some people feel as though you've got to be doing either one thing or and leaving the other stuff alone. If you're talking about this serious case, you can't do a video about the grill. I don't agree with that. I don't see why you can't. And I think if you want to talk about 9/11 as well, or whatever, or the moon landings, or quote unquote COVID, or all that kind of stuff, you can do it. But the commenter is right. I'm sure that it'll add extra fuel for people who want to attack what we're doing. I'm sure they're right, and they'll just say, "Oh, look at this person who's trying to say that Nurse Lucy Letby is innocent. They also think that we didn't land on the moon," or something like that. What? I just chose that at random, but they also think that 9/11 was a quote unquote inside job. What a bunch of nutters they are, and that's probably true. They would say that kind of thing, and they probably do, and have. But they attack people on a personal level, like they're doing it on Twitter all the time. Very personal stuff, going for people in terms of their families, all kinds of stuff. Accusing people of, I've been called everything on other websites, and even accusing people of crimes. There's nothing they'll stop at. So in a sense, to try to find a way to insulate yourself from people who are determined to go for you, then there's probably no way to do that. You can't really you can't avoid it. Just can't avoid it. Anyway, I've rambled on way too long. I'll put the links below that I said, and the section that Mervyn sent me from in the email. Thanks, Mervyn, and thanks to everyone who's listened to this, and all the best to you all, and have a great weekend. Bye.